Hi everyone, hope you're well. Well, I've had a fascinating few weeks here in the UK from the comfort of my own home again this year, thanks to some pesky virus. I've been tasting through barrel samples of Bordeaux En-Primeur 2020 for United Cellars as well as JancisRobinson.com, who I also write for. I've now tasted through several hundred samples from all over, from most appellations, well, pretty much every appellation in Bordeaux, and I can safely say overall it's a really very good vintage. Perhaps not quite at the overall quality of the 2019 vintage, which was absolutely excellent, but certainly on a par with the very good 2018 vintage. So I think I would term this vintage as a heterogeneous vintage, and there were various events that happened during the growing cycle that created these differences between the regions. There are certainly great wines made in every appellation in 2020, but to bring it to base terms, I would say that this is more of a right bank vintage than a left bank vintage. Overall, the quality on the right bank for me is more consistent. There are still plentiful sublime wines on the left bank, as you might expect, especially from the big Cru Class A wines, the superstars, and they certainly don't disappoint as you would hope. But on the right bank for me, I found that some of the lesser known domain or chateau really excelled in this very strong vintage for Merlot based wines. Of course, on the right bank, the two heavyweight title contenders are Saint-Emilion and Pomerol, home of Chateau Le Pin and of course Petrus. Pomerol is arguably the most seductive, I would say, velvety and probably hedonistic appellation in Bordeaux, certainly on the right bank, and has only 800 hectares planted. But for me this year, Pomerol really stood out amongst its peers, and one chateau particularly impressed me, given its amazing value for money, and that's this wine here, Chateau Taillefer. This estate has 12 hectares planted, 90% of those are Merlot, and the remaining 10% is Cabernet Franc. In Pomerol, you tend to find, well, there are three main soils. You have gravel, clay, and sand, and most estates have a combination of the above. The clay soils give powerful wines, the gravel soils will give you finesse, and the sandy soils give beautiful aromatics. And here at Chateau Taillefer, they have a majority of these fabulous sandy soils that give those aromatics, and those beautiful violet floral hallmarks are certainly there in this wine. They just leap out of the glass at you. Slight cinnamon spice note in there as well. This estate typically produces medium-bodied wines that can be drunk in the medium term. Yet I love the extraction on these tannins. They're like gentle little pinpricks all over your mouth, and I think this is certainly a wine that will age incredibly well, but will also have that bonus of drinking relatively young. For me, the oak is already remarkably integrated into the wine, and the fruit is like a cloud of ripe and succulent dark fruits. I think this, of course, it's a barrel sample, and things can change, but for me on this showing, this is looking like a very, very smart wine indeed. So I would suggest grabbing a case of this while you can. Cheers.